Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Alina Razeki, and I'm a Doctor of Philosophy in Organizational Leadership and Human Resources Development. I'm a May 2020 graduate of Regent University School of Business and Leadership with specialization in Human Resources Development. During October 2022 annual research roundtable conference at Regent University, I presented on agility in the age of amalgamation and the role of human resources development in these two processes. I interviewed qualitatively 4 individuals, 2 males and 2 females, and asked them specific questions, sharing my working definition of agility as well as amalgamation as they apply to the human condition, and asking them questions whether they agreed with those definitions, and if so, why, and if not, why not, or if they disagreed, and if they considered themselves to be agile, and also how they applied their agility for amalgamation in their organizational environments. So I defined agility as the ability to not only bounce back to changing circumstances, but to be enriched by them for sustainability. And I used Southwick and Charney 2018 working definition of resilience as the ability to bounce back, but I actually took it a step further, and not only to bounce back, but also to be able to amalgamate one's own experience into the whole spectrum of experiences and be able to act from that enriched platform in organizational environments. Also, the Golgachi 2020 et al. Actually identified a resilient agility, which actually makes it faster, makes it more robust, and makes it to be able to be sustained over a longer period of time. I grounded my work on agility in Proverbs 3:5 through 6, Eastern Standard Version, trusting the Lord not only with the mind but also with the appreciative heart, to not just rely on our own understanding, but to continue to function in a society, in organizational environment, to be open-minded and open-hearted, and to be able to learn and adopt the obviously the constructive ideas of others into our agile processes. For the amalgamation in the human condition, I believe that amalgamation is more of a chemical process, or that's how we knew it previously. But to the human condition, I adopted the working definition of consolidating the new skills with the existing skills, and then be able to interact with our organizational environments from that perspective, creating a broader spectrum of experiences, broader spectrum of ideas, and so forth. It is hypothesized that coalescence strengthens not only an individual but groups of individuals, because in groups we tend to think alike. So we have a moral responsibility to actually interact with people who are not just like-minded or like heart-minded, but also who are constructive and can peacefully and harmoniously exchange ideas as they enrich the pool of ideas. As far as the amalgamation, I grounded it biblically in Genesis 1:1.5, English Standard Version, and I'm just going to use an example as the pericope actually describes as God first created light and darkness, and I think that we know from observing of nature that there is no clear line of demarcation between light and darkness, that they both permeable, and we have dusk and dawn to actually know that these are also transitional processes. So amalgamation in the era of agility, or agility in the era of amalgamation, requires us to not only continue to learn, but also to be able to amalgamate or adopt the objects of learning into our existing processes to make them broader, to make them more functional. Maybe not necessarily faster, but more functional and more applicable to our changing circumstances. As I mentioned before, my questions to my participants were that whether they agreed or disagreed with my working definition of agility, my working definition of amalgamation, and if yes, to explain why, and if not, to explain why not, and also to confirm or deny whether they considered themselves agile, and if they considered themselves agile, I wanted to know if how they would bring their agility to their organizational environment. I also grounded my research in Knowles et al. Model, and it's an andragogy model of education, and it is basically grounded in our need to know, which I consider to be the thirst for knowledge, which in my opinion should last our lifetime. The ability to maintain our self-concept. So from my previous research, I coined the model that is based in self-awareness, in emotional stability, emotional maturity, and self-concept I interpret as the ability to foresee the consequences of our words and actions in our social environments or organizational environments in of contact. So it is also important for Knowles et al. To be ready to learn, to be oriented towards learning, and to be self-motivated to learn. The method that I used during my study, it's Liamputtong and Ezzy. So I took the raw data from my participants and I extracted the themes from the raw data. I also assigned the themes one word representation, and it's usually a human trait because I consider myself a qualitative researcher of the human condition as it interacts. We actually form and inform and form and transform our culture, which actually serves as our self-restraint system and also the system of recognition who we are as a member of our local community, our organizational environments, whether they're professional, academic, our state communities, because we have 50 states in the United States, and also as the global community, as the United States is the country, is one of the global countries. The answers from my participants as they represented two different genders were quite interesting because although they agreed with my working definition of agility as well as amalgamation, they also pushed the boundaries of my research, and this is always a great thing because we wanna know what our participants are thinking, and we wanna enrich science by these findings. So they wanted to probe into agility a little bit deeper from various perspectives, like intellectual ability versus physical or practical agility. Also, one participant noted that what is the role of social conformity in maintaining our ability to be resilient and to be, do we tend to be more independent living in a democratic society and we tend to express our views more freely, or do we conform to some sort of social pressure? And also one participant stated that it was important to answer the role of agility as a decision, so that there would be an intellectual part of it, and also in unison with how we feel in our hearts. Also, resilient was defined as in two parts, meaning that are we resilient when we collaborate, or are we really more resilient when we construct and not necessarily cooperate? So it's more of an individualistic versus an individual as part of a group type of resilience that my participant And also, my participants identified personality traits that appear to be consistent with agility as it interacts with amalgamation in organizational environments. And those traits that emerged would be cleverness, grit, intelligence, learning from mistake, and perseverance. And I would personally say that courage per Winston Churchill, is the first human trait because it guarantees all ours. We also need to have sufficient courage to be able to bring these proposed traits, which our further research, to be able to maximize our agility, as well as to be able to amalgamate the artifacts of our agility with our organizational in environments. As to the role of human resources development in agility as well as amalgamation, my participants also pushed the boundaries, indicating that we need to enrich that process of human resources development from just training for retention and sustainability to be able to be like an A team, be able to interact on an as needed basis as quickly as a situation develops, to be able to bring our skills, even our newly acquired skills, to deploy them to resolve current problems. And this is the limitation of this kind of study is the number of participants. I only interviewed 4 participants, 2 females and 2 males, just to have a gender specificity, enough of gender specificity. And since agility is just such an important part of our organizational framework nowadays, it is important to continue to develop this research to identify other facets of agility as it applies to human condition, and how quickly we can adopt and amalgamate these artifacts of our own adaptation, and as we adapt as part of our organizational environment to make sure that we are more efficient, not as stressed, and we actually do it with enjoyment. Thank you so much for your attention, and warmest regards. Thank you.